Faster than any tank in the world, unbeatable maneuverability were the nicknames or terms used by Soviet Red Army soldiers for the tank with its superior speed in 1935. Serving in the Soviet Red Army's armored forces from approximately 1933 to 1945, and participating in major wars such as the Soviet-Japanese Border War, the Winter War, and World War II, with around 1884 units manufactured. The legendary BT5 laid the foundation for the rapid tank philosophy of Soviet military doctrine. The BT5 was a Soviet light tank developed in the early 1930s as part of the BT Bystro tank fast tank series. Designed for speed, mobility, and powerful tactical maneuvering, the BT-25 became one of the most iconic armored vehicles of the interwar period and played a significant role in shaping Soviet armored doctrine. The BT-5 entered service in 1933, developed from the earlier BT-2 model. It was based on the Christie suspension system, allowing the tank to move at extremely high speeds. Weighing 11.5 tons, measuring 5.8 meters in length, 2.2 meters in width, and 2.2 meters in height, the BT-5 has a crew of 3: commander, gunner, driver, and loader. The vehicle is only protected by 13 mm thick homogeneous rolled armor. While this thin armor reduces the vehicle's weight, giving it superior speed, its bullet resistance is significantly compromised, offering only moderate protection against infantry weapons. To compensate for this armor deficiency, the BT-5 is equipped with a 45 mm main gun, the M1932-38 20K anti-tank gun, an upgraded version of the 19K M1932, and improved to fire AP armor-piercing and HE high-explosive rounds. Additionally, it is equipped with 2 7.62 mm machine guns for suppressing infantry. To operate the vehicle and gain an advantage in speed, it is equipped with a Mikulin M17 TV1 to 450 horsepower gasoline engine, giving it a top speed of 72 to 86 km per hour on paved roads and 50 km per hour on rough terrain. With a 620-liter fuel tank, the BT-5 has a range of up to 250 km on flat roads and 120 km on rough terrain. The BT-5 was designed for deep penetration and rapid breakthroughs, reflecting Soviet theories that emphasized speed, surprise, and combat depth. Instead of acting as a defensive vehicle, the BT-5 was designed to exploit gaps in enemy lines, disrupt supply routes, and sow chaos behind enemy lines. One of the most famous stories about the BT-5 stems from its incredible speed. During exercises in the mid-1930s, BT-5 crews were said to have outpaced cavalry units and even military trucks across open terrain. Soldiers joked that the BT tanks didn't advance, they appeared suddenly, like steel ghosts. This reputation earned the BT-5 and its counterparts the nickname high-speed tank Bystro tank, further reinforcing the myth that only speed could decide the battle. From 1936 to 1939, Spain was embroiled in a civil war between the Republican and nationalist factions. The Republican faction was an alliance of left-wing parties supporting the Popular Front under the Second Spanish Republic, encompassing political parties adhering to ideologies such as socialism, communism, separatism, anarchism, and republicanism, with a segment opposing the pre-war government. In contrast, the nationalist opposition was an alliance of right-wing parties adhering to ideologies such as Falangist, monarchist, conservative, and Catholic traditionalism. This faction was led by the military dictatorship of General Francisco Franco. The Republican forces, on the other hand, were backed by the Soviet Union and supported by Soviet advisors. Some documents note, the National Army was shocked to see the tanks move much faster than anything they had ever faced before. Some documents describe the BT-5 South rapidly flanking enemy positions, causing chaos and panic. However, that battle also revealed a weakness that later became famous: the thin armor, which could be penetrated by anti-tank guns, reminded the crews that speed could not replace protection. The clashes at Khalkhingal 1939 were a major conflict between the Soviet Union, Mongolia, and Japan Manchurian Army, culminating in the encirclement and destruction of the Japanese 23rd Division in late August by the Red Army under the command of former Soviet Defense Minister Georgy Zhukov, ending with a ceasefire agreement, demonstrating a heavy defeat for Japan, forcing them to abandon their intention of expanding territory toward the Soviet Union. During clashes with the Japanese at Khalkhingal, BT-25 tanks were widely used. Veterans later recalled how BT units carried out daring, swift attacks across the open steppe terrain. Several stories praised the bravery of the crews as they charged into enemy positions despite knowing their armor was vulnerable. These battles became part of Red Army legend, portraying BT-5 crews as reckless but fearless, relying on their maneuverability and ferocity. The emphasis on speed earned the BT series of tanks the reputation of being the Red Army's cavalry tanks, due to their maneuverability, speed, superior mobility, and group combat capabilities. The BT-5 wasn't the most durable or survivable tank, but it revolutionized the field at the time. Its speed, bold design, and dramatic battle stories have secured it a firm place in military history, whether viewed through documented battles or the legends surrounding it. The BT-5 remains a compelling example of how ambition and experimentation shaped early armored warfare. Besides its advantages in speed, the BT-5 also revealed fatal weaknesses in the Polish, Finnish, and Nazi German wars. The 1939 invasion of Poland, known to the Poles as the September Campaign Kampania Rezerwowa, the Patriotic War of 1939, Wojna Obronna 1939, Roku II, the Germans as the Polish Campaign, Hohenfeldzug, or the code name White Plan Fall, Weiss, was the opening military operation of World War II. Taking place on September 1, 1939, when Nazi Germany launched a surprise attack on Poland. A week after the signing of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact with the Soviet Union, and a day after the Soviet Supreme Legislature ratified the pact, on September 17, 1939, the Soviet Red Army invaded eastern Poland using BT-5 light tanks. Despite facing weak resistance from Poland, the BT-5's problems were clearly revealed regarding maintenance and logistics issues. Therefore, the Soviet tanks were only used in the role of battlefield reconnaissance vehicles. The Winter War Finnish, Talvisota, Swedish, Vinterkriget, Russian. Transliteration, Simjaja Boina, also known as the Soviet-Finnish War of 1939 to 1940, was a war between the Soviet Union and Finland over territorial disputes in the Karelia region. It took place at the beginning of World War II, when German troops had invaded Austria, Czechoslovakia, and later Poland. This short but fierce war occurred during one of the harshest winters of the 20th century. Although the Finnish army fought well and inflicted some defeats on the Red Army, boosting Finnish morale, after 100 days of intense fighting, they were defeated and forced to cede part of Western Karelia to the Soviet Union. During the battle, the Soviet BT-5 tanks clearly revealed their difficulties and weaknesses when fighting in harsh, cold environments and dense jungle terrain. Their thin armor made them vulnerable to Finnish anti-tank forces, and the thin armor also rendered them ineffective against Finnish ambush tactics. Although the Soviet Union won the war against Finland and captured part of Western Karelia, the conflict highlighted serious flaws in the design of Soviet light tanks. Even though, during Operation Barbarossa 1941, the Germans used Panzer I, Panzer II, Panzer 35T, Panzer 38T tanks captured from Czechoslovakia, and Panzer III, Panzer IV tanks, rendering the BT-5 tanks obsolete. Stories from the early German invasion recounted BT-25 crews fighting desperately against superior enemy tanks. These tragic stories later shaped Soviet military thinking, contributing to the inspiration for the development of the T-34, a combination of speed and robust armor often described as the spiritual successor of the BT tank series. The legend of the courageous tank, the so-called cavalry tank, lives on in the hearts of the sons, the soldiers, and the heroic minds of the Soviet Union. Though old and outdated, its fighting spirit remains immortal. That is heroism,